welcome to AOK Games. This is another review, this time something really special in Microsoft Flight Simulator. That is to say, the Fenix Simulations A319 Airbus in the now dissolved company of US Air. Small tidbit here, I'm very familiar with this airline because it happens to be my previous employer. And this is indeed an aircraft that I have a lot of experience working on. The CRJs, the 200s, the 700s, the 320s, and the 321s in this paint scheme are, in fact, a lot of where I spent my time as an A&P at Philadelphia International. So, that little tidbit aside, we are out in Pittsburgh today, and we're going to be flying to Philadelphia International Airport. And what more fitting way than to do that, to pay Fenix the respect it deserves, this particular aircraft the respect that it definitely will deserve, and the airline that was now merged into another airline, the respect that it, well, had. So, as I said, this is the Fenix Simulations 319, and I will be doing the 321. If you're familiar with Fenix, you know this is indeed a study-level aircraft. So, just a precautionary tale, this is not the press the go button and take off instantly from the load-up type of aircraft. This is one of those planes that has to be programmed the correct way. For those of you who know about that, you know that Fenix is essentially the premier developer for Airbus products in Microsoft Flight Simulator, without question, by my opinion, of course. And the reason for it is just look at how bold this is. You'll see the systems in this review. I won't go into extensive depth, as that video would take hours to cover everything. But when you look at these external textures, as I like to review all of my aircraft, for the first tidbit of the review is just the extraordinary amount of detail in these simulation planes are wild. I mean, if this product were anything, it is Airbus, quintessentially. You know, I was basically checking out the details. I mean, I'd like to pan over here to the wing and just look at the wing. Look at how the clouds are reflecting off of it, but also look at these rivets, right? You can see the dimples in the wings with these PBR textures and everything. The depth here is phenomenal. These rivets are absolutely on point. There's no jagged edges. There's no rough textures. Everything here looks great. And I beg to differ that, you know, when you're looking at possibly grease and dirt in between these seams and these joints, it's all there. The screw heads here, the Phillips screw heads, they are all super high detail. I mean, the numbering is high detail. You go underneath the wing here and you can see, you know, you've got the weathering effect of the dirt, the grime, the rain, all of it just on these fairings. These inspection plates here have the dirt where you would expect them to be, in between the seams where the panels pull down. It's all extensively detailed. Now, like I said, this comes at a cost. This is the 319, of course, and they also have the 321. Well, previously, their exclusive bird for MSFS was the 320. The nice thing about Airbus, if you're a pilot or even a maintenance technician, is the similarities between these aircraft. The MCDU, the flight dynamics, the Airbus law, all of it is essentially wrapped up into a very similar package, requiring the pilots to know a little bit less than, you know, the differences in the models, because they're so very similar that you can transition from one very easily to another, and that goes as well from personal experience speaking on the maintenance side. All right, you're looking in here, possible grease, and you saw just previously the tire tread. The texture there, they don't look overly sharp, they're not rubbery, they're not shiny like they're covered in tire shine. They have authenticity that speaks for them in terms of how they look. So, even looking back here, you can see, look at the rain effects, possibly, the weathering. right off the trailing edges of the windows, right? I mean, in the sun, it is glorious. If ever there was a Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft where you could say photorealistic was the theme, this would be the bird to take that claim for sure. I mean, even just look at the door release latch. I mean, the detail there. How many hours does that take to design in computer programming and artistry? I don't know, but the size is appropriate. All the scale is appropriate. We come in here, right, and you're essentially looking at these food storage, drink storage trays, snack trays. It's all labeled. And what's really cool is the coloring, right? This is US Air. Now, I know they're not in service anymore as they were merged, but when you were in a US airplane, if you've flown with them, this is the color scheme, right? I mean, look at the rug detail. That's authentic. Look at the seat detail. And this isn't one of those planes where it's like everything gets ugly when you get close. You saw the wing, you saw the rivets. Everything here is just of the 10th out of 10th level, right? I mean, we're talking about quality on quality. We've got our little pouches in here, and everything is on par. Visually and audio-wise, it's all there. There was a difference between the inside and the outside. Ambient noises for the winds that I could hear. This looks more like a photorealistic airplane than I've seen. Their 20 is like this, and their 321 is also like this. So we're in for a treat. I wanted to show you the outside. Completely necessary, as an aircraft of this level definitely requires vigilism, right? Like visualization, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You want to be vigilant about what you're looking at here because the quality is on the next level. All of their models are like this, no matter which one you buy. But I beg to differ that this aircraft might be the best of both worlds. If you're looking for study level, and you're looking for an aircraft that is short and can get in and out of airports fairly easily, can get up to altitude quick, can descend quick, can fly ILS, can fly RNAV, can do all of the things that the modern Airbuses can do, as they do in real life, then this is your ticket to entertainment right here. The 319 by Fenix, the 320, and the 321. So stay tuned for the 321. That'll be my next review. But let's go ahead, after seeing the outside and all of the accessories and the doors that open and the ground power unit and the engine fan heating that's not actually clicked right now. All of the options are here. The details, we'll check out the front landing gear, the nose wheel here real quick. I mean, just go ahead and take a look at that, right? Look at the weathering and look at the reflection of the nose wheel lights. Look at how detailed the spring is, right? The two springs. I mean, even when we get close, there is nothing vague about these textures at all. I can get in there and you can literally read the service plaques. I mean, some time and consideration and some love have been put into this, and it just displays what can truly be done in Flight Simulator in 2023, 24, you know, onward, right? This program's been out for a while, meaning Microsoft Flight Simulator, but in moving forward, we are in for a bag of treats because this is exceptionalism at its finest. And I know that I'm gushing, but throughout the flight, I believe that if you aren't aware of who Fenix Simulations are and the quality of products they make, you definitely will be after this video. So let's hop on board. Thanks for joining. Okay, so welcome on board. This is the EFB, and what I want to show you before we get started is I figured this would be the best place to do some of the reviews, at least interior-wise. Pilot and command, all of these are essentially options that we can use to literally do simulation, right? If you want to role play, if you want your stairs, if you want your GSX, if you want your tug connection, all of these are clickable. We are going to leave the GPU on now because essentially I want the power, make it easy to turn the aircraft on and program it, but we've got our flight here, It's already done and imported from SimBrief. Mass and balance has already been calculated, which I programmed from the SimBrief as it transferred over. Very simple. Load your aircraft, send it to the MCDU, you're ready to go. It comes with a panel state. I prefer cold and dark because as a study level with the plane that needs to know where it is in the world, cold and dark is the de facto situation for being able to fly the airplane appropriately without it complaining, essentially. We have all of our performance calculations here, right? So we can do takeoff and landing. That is the landing page. Everything's self-explanatory. You just apply everything. You can refresh and you can apply. And you can also go to takeoff and you can sync the load sheet and you can sync the live weather and you can calculate it. And then you can even send it to the MCDU, which I will not do yet because once we turn this on, I'll refresh to this page. But I'm just here to show you essentially what's going on. Of course, this is all Navigraph integrated, so you need the Navigraph plan. That does not come with this aircraft or any of the Fenix aircraft by default. Yes, you get this EFB, but you will not get the Navigraph functions. And what this essentially does is, if you haven't seen it before, or if you've seen any other videos on my channel, it'll give you your route, it'll tell you all about your airports, it'll give you ground charts, airport info, everything you need to essentially conduct a safe flight. It'll even tell you where you are right here on the fuel pad, and it gives you the situational awareness that you would want as a pilot. Now we're going to probably be taking off, I believe, out of 28 left or 28 right, but we'll confirm that, and we're heading to Philly, right? So everything we need, departures, stars, approaches, all of that, it's all available here with the Navigraph if you are subscribed. And these approach plates are all Jeppesen, right? Jeppesen and integrated. So makes life so much easier, and the EFB is a fantastic way to traverse this cockpit. So let's back up and I'll show you the fidelity. As you've seen the passenger cabin, you can see the fidelity in here. All of the buttons, all of the panels, all of the textures, everything is brought to you in high fidelity, right? And what's nice is, like I said, this aircraft is so small, yet avionics-wise robust and capable with, fly-by-wire sticks and, the side sticks TCA, which, again, disclaimer, I do fly with the Thrustmaster TCA, so what I am flying with, essentially, is that in real life on my desktop, and this whole center console basically incorporating this, the flaps, the throttles, the spoilers, the rudder, the engine controls, the parking brake, and that is identical to the Thrustmaster. I'll go ahead and link them because if you're flying an Airbus, you'll see in a minute why I use the Thrustmaster TCA for this aircraft. So that being said, let me turn everything on in an effort to save time, and then I will show you the magic of this Airbus in the MCDU to begin with. Okay, operations 1, turn the batteries on, right? Then we need to turn our master switch for the APU on. Once we turn that on, we'll go ahead and we'll hit the start. Let's go outside and listen to the APU. And while that's turning on, let's check our screens here as they'll start flickering on, right? Simulated even with the screens turning on, which is quite incredible. Once that's on, we'll go ahead and it's available. We'll go ahead and turn our generator on, make sure that that's on. Let's throw the bleed airs on, and alive comes our air conditioning. Fantastic. So it goes through its tests, 40 seconds, it puts everything where it needs to be. And we can come down now to the MCDU, and we can essentially start our alignment process. Now, I, by de facto, am not an Airbus captain or pilot. However, these systems here are quite amazing, and I'll show you now why I like this Airbus, right? If you have the TCA sticks from Thrustmaster, you can calibrate them to coincide with your actual thrust levers. So when you have your detents for zero throttle, climb, flex, maximum continuous throttle or thrust, and takeoff, go around, they calibrate in the MCDU with your thrust levers on your desktop or wherever you're keeping your throttle lever. And it really allows you to fly the aircraft by the book. So highly, highly recommend that. Heck, it's even got inputs for, as I'm moving my side stick here, it's even got inputs for that, so you can monitor how all of your inputs are working. And even flaps, it even has a flaps calibration. So if we toggle over here, you've got a 0, a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I can move my stick here in real life on the desktop, and it functions. That, my friends, is the cost of true study level. It's all built in and made for you by them to function and make your life with an Airbus as automated as the real thing. So let me program all of this in. I'll save you the details of what it takes to go through the MCDU. Once that's all done and we get the flight plan in and I put all of the information there, we'll go ahead and bring you right back, right as I'm ready to start the aircraft so that you can hear the sounds of these CFMs. Okay, now that we're ready to take off here, I'll just show you real quick. We've got everything plugged in. Our performance numbers, our V1, our rotate, our flaps 1 config, flex temp, everything's in here. Our plan for departure and arrival is literally all ready to go. And that is, performance-wise, really nice because we were able to calculate, as stated, from the mass and balance, you just import and you send to MCDU, as well as your takeoffs, calculate, send to, MCDU, and it's all in there. We've got everything good. IRSs are aligned. Let's go ahead and start this up. So I'm going for nav 1 today. We'll use 2 on the opposite day, every other day. We've got strobes auto, beacons on, and let's throw our taxi light on. I've turned the packs off with the bleeds on. We'll go ahead and turn our right tank on. As you can see, we have no fuel in the center, so we'll do that. I'll go ahead and I'll change my view here so that you can see the start. And I'll go to ignition start on my Thrustmaster. And we'll rotate the number 2 engine for start. Parking brakes are set. Let's look for rotation here. And we've got rotation, so let's go outside. See that number 2 coming to life. Nice heat blur, nice animations. There we go. We'll look ahead. We'll turn on the second pack. We've got our generator fired up. No faults on that. Good to go. Let's look down here and we'll start the number 1 engine. And rinse and repeat. We'll look for N2 rotation. We've got that. Let's come down here and I need to make sure that we are on transmit receive for our altimeter there. 1200 auto. We'll go to on. So we have the TCAS. Let's bring our flaps to position 1. And let's clear that master caution. Engine coming alive. And goofball me. Make sure we turn those fuel pumps on. Company message, predictive wind shear needs to be turned on. So we will come over here. Auto, auto. and we'll just leave the radar control. So another thing about the review on this aircraft that you should know is everything here works. We have available, we have all of that. Let's go ahead and turn our left-hand pack on. No fault messages there. Again, center tanks are off. Let's go ahead and turn our APU off here. We do not need that. We'll remove the bleed. And we need to check a couple more things. And once that's checked, meaning the trim and the takeoff, once we are checking everything and we have everything in the green to go, I'm going to line up for 28 left and we'll get on out of Pittsburgh. So I'll bring us back for that. We'll set the QNH. Everything will be great. We'll do that now. And looking good both sides. Okay, 1,700 feet. I'll set that just as we get around to that waypoint. And we'll be good to go. Okay, be right back towards the runway threshold. See you in a second. Okay, so as we're taxiing out, just before we get to the threshold, I'd just like to point out how convenient that actual Navigraph chart is for the ground operations on the taxiways. It's nice because it gives you the ability to see where you're going in real time, and that way there's no confusion about where you are going and where you came from. I also think as I rotated the altimeter up to 29,100 feet, set the auto brakes, everything's good to go, QNH is all on, and we're all programmed for takeoff with the autopilot. However, I would like to manually fly this and get a feel for what it's like, because if this is a review, I want you to be able to hear what I have to say about it and see what it's actually like in the hands of the end user. Obviously me and or you all out there. So in an effort to try these engines out, I'm going to take off, go around thrust here, and I can really feel the weight of the engines there, essentially, and the brakes here. Pick up a little bit of speed, use the tiller. You can feel with the tiller the weight of the wheels, the weight in the turn. You can sense the inertia of the engines, and you can tell that the it has a very it's cheesy to say, but it has a very study level feel to it. This aircraft has weight, and it translates well into the controls. So there's always that. Now, this is essentially the center runway that we just crossed over for 28, and we are coming up to 28 left. So once that's all aligned, we'll go ahead and bring it right back just over there. Okay, and just like that, we're back. We've got the brakes here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the landing lights below 10,000. We've got our taxi lights on. Let's rotate them to takeoff. We've got our strobes, beacons, navs, everything set. We did our takeoff config check. It's all good. I pulled all of our flight control surfaces up for the page here, and we're checking everything. And it appears to be good. Like I said, once we get out of here, I'm just going to fly this essentially by hand because I like to feel what the aircraft has to offer in terms of flight dynamics. So that is how the cookie crumbles. And let's check clear left and clear right. Lining up on the active. You can see we have a fairly decent left-hand turn in green there right after we power up. So let's go ahead and do that. We're flaps 1. We won't have to remove too much parasitic drag. Let's go ahead and rotate the flex. Manual throttle control. And just like I said, you can feel the weight of those engines. And then let's listen for full here. And I can feel the weight on the rudder and nose wheel inputs for sure. Little bit of right correction there. And there's our rotate. Straight off. I'll tap the brakes, positive rate, gear up, flaps from 1 to 0. We'll go back to flex and climb, and then we'll manually fly this out as best as possible. We're going to probably fly wide of our green, change the range, get some different angles. Lovely sounds, and quite a lovely feel, to be honest with you. And this is quite a steep bank, particularly for a passenger flight, but I definitely want to feel what it's like to be in the Fenix 319. Liking it so far. It reminds me a lot of the 320, but again, this might actually be the perfect aircraft because you figure it's very, very nimble, small, capable, can get in and out of airports, and you can go just about anywhere in the world, considering it's essentially 3,700 plus nautical miles. Of course, we're going just a tad over 250 knots below 10,000 feet. Let's go ahead and see how the aircraft wants to handle the autopilot. So we'll throw on the auto thrust, and we'll throw on autopilot 1. Push in. Push in. Push in, and those dots and dashes mean we are in Airbus managed flight mode. So in theory, this aircraft should fly maximum continuous thrust. All of this is set up by having the throttle in the climb detent there, and it should go to 29,100 feet as we are already on our intercept course, and it seems as though it is pretty much flying where it needs to be flight director wise. And just looking out over the window here. Fantastic. Let's look ahead here and see if we can get those lights off. And close enough to 10,000, so let's go ahead and put the other lights in the retract mode. We'll go strobes on. Everything's good. Come down here. Let's just check out some of our pages. Again, all of these are functional. Pneumatic bleed. Electrical, fuel, flight controls, wheels, conditioning for the temperatures. It's all there. Let's go ahead and push that down. And we are above 10,000, so those lights could come off anyways. We'll rotate over to standard barometric pressures at 18,000 feet. Let's go get some views. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing inside and outside. Of course, don't forget, we've got the EFB here, so coupled with the Navigraph, we can see everything we need to see. Our flight information and all of that in real time. So it's a very short flight today, less than 300 nautical miles or so, to Philadelphia. The approach is programmed. We have the top of descent. It's all ready to go. And once we are there, we'll program up for the ILS to 27 right. And We'll activate the approach, and I'll conclude the video with a actual final landing here so that I can feel the weight on the approach and the brakes and the thrust reversers, and with that we'll finish on up. See you on final approach. Okay, down out of 5,700 feet, we're approaching our final right turn. Once we get around this Martin at 3,000, what I'll do is turn on the landing system. I'll couple both the autopilot 1 and 2. We'll go into localizer mode for horizontal, lateral, left and right for the guidance. Once we get that, I'll put on the approach, and then we'll have vertical as well. So scratch that. Horizontal. It's lateral, and then it's vertical. So be right back. Okay, just about to be on final approach here. Let's go ahead and turn all the lights on that are available. That is indeed Philadelphia City out the front window, and 27 right in front of us, and at our 10 o'clock position. Let's rotate down to the 10-mile marker. We're just at about 2,100 feet for Jalto. Once we straighten out, I'll go ahead and throw on the approach. Making that turn for 27 right. And so far the aircraft has been stunning, completely flawless. Okay, let's zoom on in here, hit the approach. Flaps extended, gear down, everything, auto throttle is good, everything's ready. We are flying that 27 right approach. This is ILS, and the plane is effectively doing this by itself, of course. So it works when you put in the right thing. All the coordinates. We are on a Cat 3 single, autopilot 1 and 2. Cat 3 dual, more accuracy, more redundancy. Now we can just go back. Let's check out the windows. There's Philadelphia. There we go. And we'll just zoom in here real quick. Let's do auto braking low. And we are just in our final legs. So, in an effort to do the entire thing in real time, I'll just let this play out as it were. Tracking speed, tracking glide slope, and tracking the localizer. Auto thrust engaged. So again, you use the localizer to get your left and right path correct to align with the ILS glide slope signal, and then you go over to approach. And as long as your aircraft is set up the right way, as long as you've got your approach phases, your QNH is set, your barometers, your decision altitude heights according to the Navigraph charts, plug all that into the phases and it's good to go. So you can see right off the nose there, to the left of the threshold of the runway for 27 right, we have 2 whites over 2 reds, which means we are 100% on track. Do not need this ILS approach. However, ILS is definitely, on a study level aircraft, something that needs to be looked at and checked. So that's something we always want to do to make sure that we have it all right. I'll disarm autopilots here because I want to try this landing for myself.
Minimum. Light slope.
And just get a little bit of a feel for the aircraft here, even if we run long.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard.
Throttles back to idle. Reverse thrust. And manual braking for the experience. "70 knots, we'll get out of the reversers. And we'll follow this baby here right off to the right. No specific gate in mind, but we'll move on over to the nose wheel tiller controls. Let's go ahead and throw our nose wheel lights into taxi. We'll turn off our wing landing lights. And welcome to Philadelphia. Alright, I'll go ahead and park this up and give you my final thoughts. See you in just a second.
Shortly be leaving their seats to perform safety-related duties. However, we ask that you remain seated until the fasten seatbelt sign has been switched off. Portable electronic devices for messaging, calls, or internet access may now be used. Please make sure you take all your personal belongings with you, checking in the seat pocket, underneath the seat, and in the overhead lockers. Do take care opening the overhead lockers as items may have moved during flight. Smoking is not permitted until you reach a designated smoking area. On behalf of the captain and the crew, it has been our pleasure looking after you today. Our ground crew will help you complete your journey.
We're approaching our gate here. And I do not have GSX or any of those profiles for the airports, but if you did, perhaps the gates in the aircraft would synchronize quite nicely. And just finishing on up, I'd like to stop by spooling the engines down and stopping them so that you could hear the effects. Okay. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to turn the master switch on for the APU. We're going to restart that. And we'll set our parking brakes. Once the APU is ready to go and the door is open, we'll be able to do that. And for now, we will just run off of battery power because I really want to get these engines off so that we could hear what that sounds like. Let's see here. Alright, just like that, the APU is firing back up, and this concludes the review. So hopefully you like what you saw in this aircraft. Obviously, if you know about Fenix and you're contemplating purchasing this, all I can say is it's definitely an aircraft that I would recommend. Upcoming will be the 321 Airbus by them, which released at the same time as this 319. I find this short Airbus package to be really nice because essentially it's everything you could want. It's got the study level, it's got the textures, it's got the detail, but it is that level of simulation. So it's a learning process, but it's very rewarding. When you get everything right, it makes you feel like an Airbus captain. So that being said, I'll leave all the links in the description below. Thanks for watching the video, and hopefully you'll tune back in for the 321. That flight will be going the distance from San Francisco International all the way to Honolulu. Again, we'll be flying the ILS, and I'll be checking out the textures, the interiors, the MCDU, all of it. Stay tuned. Take care. Bye-bye.